Hi everyone, it's Chris here from the Southwest Shooters, and in this little video I'm going to give you a review of my Daystate Red Wolf. This model is in 177 and it is the midnight version, which just means it is blue and black in color. It's exactly the same as the other Red Wolves, but just a different stock on it. And I've had this gun for 4 months now, and I feel like I'm in a better position to give you some honest feedback about the good and the bad things about the gun. Now I've owned it for this length of time and I've used it extensively. So I'm just going to talk to you randomly. I haven't written anything down here about some of the features that I really like, some features of the gun, and some of the things that I'm actually not too happy with. Okay, but I want you to take that with a pinch of salt because it might not apply to you. So the first thing I want to talk about is the rough shot count that I've been getting. Okay, the size of the bottle is 450 cc's, and I never fill up to maximum fill pressure, which in this gun is 212 bar. I normally fill it up to 200, and then I refill it when it gets down to 100. And when I do that, I get roughly 300 shots. Okay, so I think that's a really cool, important feature of the gun. The previous gun that I had for a very long period of time was a BSA Ultra and a WireArc HW100. And one thing that's really refreshing and something that I still really enjoy about owning this gun is that I don't have to fill it up very frequently. All right, that's really important for me because I can spend most of the day shooting, 300 pellets at least, and then I go and refill it. Okay, and it's really, really simple to refill, and I'll talk about that in another section of the video. The second thing that I want to talk about is the trigger of the gun. All right, the trigger is ultra sensitive. Right, I can't stress that enough. The trigger, when it's standard from the factory, and I've got no interest in modifying this, it's extremely sensitive. Now let me make sure it is in safety mode and it's unloaded anyway. But the trigger is like clicking a mouse button. So you've got the first stage and the second stage, and for me at least, it's very difficult to differentiate between the two. It's almost like I just rest my finger on the trigger, and with the lightest click, the shot's fired. Now, I really like this, okay? I think it's a really important feature for me, not twisting the gun around, being heavy-handed, okay? It inspires me to be as light as possible when I'm actually shooting. And that's really important because when I get in the zone and I think a little bit more about what it is that I'm doing, for me, there's two things that I need to consider. It's my position on the cheek piece, and it's actually how I pull the trigger. And this gun is really good because it's training me to pay attention to these two things in greater detail. For example, if I find that my shots are pulling to the left or to the right, it's going to be because I'm pulling the trigger too hard and I need to think about that and refocus, or that I've moved my cheek on the cheek piece or the rest. So I really like the trigger. I've got no intention of modifying it at all, and it's going to stay where it is, so I'm happy with that. That leads me on to the cheek piece. Now the cheek piece is adjustable in this gun. I can undo this Allen bolt, I think it's an Allen bolt, and I can move it up. But for me, due to my cheek genetics, there's no need to. Exactly where it is, I can rest my cheek, and I've got a really good position through the gun. And what I mean is I can see through the scope perfectly when it is when I'm shooting. I've got no need to adjust the cheek piece. It may be different for you, but at least the option's there. You can't go down. I guess if you wanted to modify it, you could have higher mounts on it, but that's entirely up to you. The butt piece of the gun, or the butt pad, is adjustable. I have had no need to do this yet. Okay, I just keep it totally as standard, and I shoot, and I'm happy. The next thing I want to talk about real briefly is the way that the magazine is indexed. Okay, Now, this is a completely electronic gun. You charge it with a little radio-controlled battery cell inside the pistol grip or the handle of the gun. And there's no sort of mechanical moving parts within inside the gun that I'm aware of. And it's very, very simple to actually index the magazine. You pull this lever back and it fires out, and you just click it ever so slightly and push it forward. It's very, very smooth, and it's very, very easy to do. And that's a really attractive feature for me. I really like it. It's a little bit like a modification of the classic wire arc or Vire arc, a magazine loading system. I really like the cocking mechanism on the HW100s, but this is more sophisticated and more refined than that, and that could be a good or a bad thing. Some people might like the kind of mechanical feeling, but this actually feels digital in the same way that we're clicking a mouse button when we're firing the gun. It also feels kind of digital. It probably doesn't make any sense, but that's the best way I can describe it. The magazine is really, really simple to load. And at the end of this video, I'll give you a little demonstration of what that looks like. And the gun comes with one magazine, and it comes with a single shot tray. And through my investigations, I found that actually using the single shot tray does provide you with increased accuracy, right? But this is really, this is far more pronounced over larger distances. So this is the sub 12 foot-pound version, okay? And you can look at other videos on the channel where I shoot this gun at 60 meters. And Ian and I have done other testing with this and other guns, and we've definitely arrived at the conclusion that the single shot tray does provide you with greater accuracy over longer distances, all right? But the downside, for me at least, when I'm using the single shot tray is that I normally have to fish a pellet out from somewhere and look where I'm putting it in, and that can sometimes mean that my cheek comes away from where it is resting, and it might change the relationship between my eye and the actual scope. I really like the magazine in this gun, right? Now, I can honestly say that in the December, January, February, March. In the 3 months that I've had this gun, just over 3 months I've had this gun, I've probably put 6,000 pellets through it, and that's a conservative estimate, right? The gun has not missed a beat. Okay, I haven't had a single pellet jam. I've had nothing go wrong with any indexing. There's been no pellets just going in halfway and then the magazine trying to turn and crunching the pellet around. Nothing. It's been absolutely faultless. In every respect, okay? There's nothing gone wrong. It's been absolutely perfect. And I think that's something to bear in mind, okay? If you want a gun that operates flawlessly, I would certainly recommend at least considering this or any other kind of Daystate. They're fantastic. When it comes to things like the carbon fiber shroud of the barrel, it looks cool. I'm not sure what functionality it provides, but the gun is very quiet. You'll notice that it doesn't have a moderator on, and I'm not interested in using this gun with a moderator. I'm very happy just keeping it stock, all right? And for me, it just does the job absolutely perfectly. I've got no interest in making a modification to that at all. The other thing that I wanted to just talk about very, very briefly is that it's very easy to mount a scope on the gun. And for me, at least, it benefits from slightly higher scope mounts. But that's going to be something that's going to be completely personal and individual to you. This is wearing a Vector Optics Sentinel. And it's a fantastic scope. And it works really well with the gun. I want to talk about some things that I don't think many people have spoken about when it comes to using this gun. All right? And I think these are going to be things that maybe I don't like as much. Okay? Or things that I think people need to be aware of. So sometimes, and this happens very rarely, your grouping is going to go, and you're going to be worried because you've bought an expensive gun and you think you found the right pellets for it, but then the grouping changes. But there's a reason for it. All right? The reason why your groupings may start to get wider is because the cell or the battery inside the gun is running flat. Okay, that's a really important thing to remember, and it's happened twice. So shortly after buying the gun, approximately 2 weeks, I was outside shooting it. It was actually on my birthday, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't shoot anymore. And then I looked on the side of the gun, and I'll show you some close-ups of what this looks like later on, but it tells you that you're running at low power, or you need to charge the battery inside the gun. So whatever the mechanics are electronically operated, and when the battery gets low, it's not working properly. The gun still fires, but the knock-on effect is that the accuracy decreases, right? Now, something that I've observed recently, which I think is really interesting, is that as the battery is running out, even before it tells you that it's running low, the accuracy will still diminish. Your groupings will get worse, right? So that's something to bear in mind. And it's very, very quick to charge up the gun. Okay, and it's not ideal because you've got to essentially turn it into a brick. Once you take the cartridge out, the battery, excuse me, you can't use the gun anymore, and you've got to pop it on the charger that comes with the gun, and you've got to wait maybe an hour. Okay, and then you charge it back up, and you're good for another 5,000 shots ish. And I use the gun a lot, so that's something to bear in mind. Some of the electronics on the gun and some of the choices that you have, I think, are slightly redundant, i.e. they're not, for me personally, they're not needed. So although you can pick high, medium and low power on the gun, I only use it on high power. And I think the gun comes with a certificate that tells you the chronograph readout. And I think the gun is firing the recommended pellets at something like 11.5 foot-pounds. And I think that's on high power. And when you drop it to medium power, it drops half a pound each time. So you can go from 11.5 to 10.5. Now, I don't care. I just want to use it on maximum power the whole time because I'm shooting fairly long distances, and that's really all I'm interested in. But there are some other really interesting things in the electronics of the gun that I think they're just worth talking about. So one of the features is you can have it so the gun knows how many pellets you have in the magazine, and you can choose, incidentally, between I think a 5, a 7, a 10 and a 13 shot magazine. Okay, I didn't know that. Presumably that's for different pellet sizes, if you're using like a 2.5 or a 3.0 or something like that. But in this magazine, I can set it to 10. And what will happen is that when you put in a new magazine, it kind of resets, and the gun knows you have 10 pellets in the magazine. So when you fire all 10, you can't fire anymore until you take out the magazine, refill it and put it back in, then the counter goes back to 10. That's a really interesting and safe way of using the gun. I don't do that. Okay, I turn all of that off. So if I want to use the single shot tray for a while, off I go, happy. And if I want to go back to the magazine, I'm happy still. Okay, and that works out well for me. If I'm being completely honest, I would like it if the magazine held more pellets. And I know that the most recent Daystate magazine that was developed with the Delta Wolf can hold 13. But 30%, I mean, that is quite a significant increase in shot count. But I mean, that's a gripe that I've got with the gun. But when you're using the single shot tray, that's not a problem because you're just feeding the pellets in individually. Other than that, there's not really a great deal more I can offer you with the gun. When I've tested this against other guns, it always is favorable for me. I always enjoy using the gun. It feels very, very solidly built to me. And I really like the way it kind of shoulders into my body and the way that the whole thing feels. It's very robust and sturdy. And I think that's something to bear in mind. When I compare it to other guns that I've used, so far I'm yet to find anything that is better for me, aside from the Daystate Pulsar. Okay, but I'm going to talk about that in a future video. So what I will do now is I'll show you, using a different camera angle, the onboard computer of the gun, which I don't think is a very user-friendly thing to work through, by the way, and I'll explain why in that part of the video, and how you load pellets into the magazine, and how we can interchange them in the gun itself. I'm really happy to have this gun. Okay, I absolutely love it. It's one of the nicest things that I have, and when buying it, I would look at pictures of the gun and I thought how cool it looked. You won't be disappointed with this, I can promise you. I've still love owning this, and I hope to use it for many years to come. Let's look into the other parts of the gun, the magazine system and the onboard computer, and we'll see if we can learn some more things. So one of the first things that you'll notice when you turn the gun on is that it tells you the pressure that you still have left in the cylinder. It tells you the power settings, and the little S, which is S578, tells you how many shots that I've taken. Now that shot counter resets at 999. So every time you do 1,000 shots, the cycle starts over again. Okay, and as I said, that's gone around, I think, maybe 6 or 7 times. Now, to put the gun into programming mode, we turn the safety on, we open up the cocking mechanism, and we hold the trigger down. And we go into programming mode, 92 Red Wolf 15V. Now, I don't like this. Okay, so when I take my finger off, oops, it's just turned itself off. When I take my finger off, I've never held it down for that long before. What will happen is that I'll be going through the cycle mode of the programs that are available. So I'll take you through those real quick, but to me it's not very user-friendly. So we've got magazine size, we've got the magazine off, and I was saying this earlier on, you can either have the magazine off, which is what I choose to do. You can have a magazine of 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, or 13. Now 13 is for the new Daystate Delta Wolf magazine, but I'm just going to turn the magazine off because that works out well for me. Now all I do is I just close up the arm again, then I open it back up, and this is the bit I don't like. You've got to keep doing this if you want to check out other things on the menu. But I'll hold down the trigger again, then it's going to go to programming mode. And what I've just done is mess that one up. So I'm going to go back into there, excuse me, hold the trigger down, magazine size, power level, sleep timer, display timer, shot count reset, magazine size. So they're the things that we've got to choose from. The power level is high, medium, or low. The sleep timer, I set that to 15 minutes. You can also have the display illuminated or not, and that's really it. So you don't have much in the way of programmability, but they're nice additions. Now, the second thing I would like to just talk about real quick is the magazine here. Now it's real nice and simple to use. The gun is on. When the cocking arms open, you just pull it out, and if you want to, you can align those two little, I'll call them nubbins, and then you can put the single shot tray in like that. Click, and the magazine takes it in, and it's nice and simple to use. You could also notice, excuse me, that each gun has its own individualized fill pressure, and this is 210. As I said, I generally fill up to 200, and then to me that's close enough. But because it's electronically regulated, there is no issue with the with anything. It's nice and straightforward. You'll notice as well, there's a little blue dot there. Now that's really handy because when you put your 10 pellets in the magazine, it sets to there, right? And when you've finished, it goes back to there. So you've got some visual kind of indication of how many shots you've got left, or whether you've got 10 left in the magazine or 0. That's it. That is my 3-month review and kind of commentary on the Daystate Red Wolf. It's a fantastic gun. I absolutely love it, and I hope you found part of this video useful. Take care, and I'll see you soon.